Joining me now, Linda Sarsour, Executive Director of the Arab American Association New York, co-founder of the first Muslim online organizing platform, Empower Change. My good friend Ezra Klein, founder and editor-in-chief of Vox.com, starts a new podcast this week, The Ezra Klein Show. Linda, let me start with you. As a proud Muslim American woman, a woman who wears a hijab, who works in the space of sort of Muslim American political power, your reaction to last night?
I mean, I wasn't shocked, but it reaffirmed for me that Donald Trump is not a joke. And there was over 100,000 fellow Americans that walked out of their homes and voted for an anti-immigrant, Islamophobic, sexist, misogynistic fascist. And that really scares me that he has the actual platform and he can potentially be the next president of the United States of America.
Ezra, you wrote this piece that I thought was excellent about why you think Trump is scary. And there's this great line. It says, Trump's other gift, the one that gets less attention but is perhaps more important, is complete lack of shame. It's easy to underestimate how important shame is in American politics, but shame is our most powerful restraint on politicians who would find success through demagoguery. What do you mean by that?
I think there are two things that set Trump apart, and I think the Buchanan example is interesting here because it shows one way in which they're different. Trump inspires a lot of comparisons to Buchanan because there's a way in which their ideologies map onto each other very well. There's a sort of economic nationalist, anti-immigrant, anti-establishment vibe to both of them. But something about Trump is that he's unbounded by the normal ways that we constrain politicians. And so one piece of that is shame, as I mentioned in the piece. Trump has this reality television star's ability to not be here to make friends. He does not care what you think of him. He does not care what party elders think of him. He does not feel, as most politicians really do feel, a sense of shame and upset when the media says he's lying or when policy experts say that his policies don't make any sense. He enjoys backlash and he is fine with it. But the other thing, and I think this is also important, is he is not connected to any of the institutions of his own party. He doesn't care about the Chamber of Commerce. He doesn't care about Paul Ryan. And is this kind of mixture, the sort of human feeling of shame and the sort of social network within political parties that allow us to put a lot of social conventions on politicians who might otherwise go off in directions that are really dangerous. Part of why Trump has done so well is he just doesn't care, so he can say things that other politicians cannot. But by the same token, if he was actually elected, he could do scary things that other politicians cannot.
You know, one of a trivial example of the shamelessness. The other night I saw him talk, he was talking about the debate, and he told the people there that he was the one that interjected when Rubio was repeating the line. Literally millions of people saw Chris Christie do that. Like, we all saw that. That was just the most obviously falsifiable lie imaginable. And he was just saying it, I don't know, knowing it was a lie, thinking it was true. That's an example of this sort of like the boundaries. Do you have two things I want to ask you, Linda. One, there's an argument that this is just shtick, and he'll completely change if he wins the general election. Does that make you feel any better?
It absolutely doesn't. I mean, the fact that I'm not talking about Donald Trump. I'm talking about those 100,000 people that went and voted for him in New Hampshire, the thousands that come out to his rallies and, you know, root him on when he talks about banning Muslim immigration and talks about killing, you know, women and children, the family members of whatever ISIS. I mean, people are rooting him on. I mean, he's talking about building a wall to keep out, you know, immigrants or even immigrants who want to leave our country right now. So what scares me about him is the fact that he can have executive power. He's going to be the most powerful man in this country. And he's not being held accountable. He has no shame in what he's saying. He knows that banning Muslim immigration is unconstitutional. He knows he really can't implement that. But he does not care what you think. And I think he keeps saying, I want to make America great again. And what he means, it's code language. And I think it's code language for white supremacists that says we want to take our country back to being less diverse, being less tolerant, being less brown. Well, that's what he's saying.
When you said white supremacists, he has occasionally retweeted explicitly white supremacists. He just retweeted the Twitter user White Genocide, someone who he's retweeted before. He has retweeted White Genocide before. And Ezra, this strikes me as a perfect example of the sort of thing you're talking about. One of the conventions of American politics in the year 2016 is you don't consort in any way with avowed white supremacists. Doesn't mean that there's no operational white supremacy in American life or racism is extinguished, but it's a convention. It's a convention that most politicians adhere to.
For good reason.
For good reason. And here's a perfect example of that being violated.
It is hard to know what to say about the front runner for the Republican nomination for president retweeting a Twitter user called White Genocide. We are in a space with Trump that I think is a bit dangerous because I think we've become slowly acculturated to him.
That's right, yes.
Trump is a reality television star, and I mean that in a very real way. He was literally a reality television star. He had a show, it was on NBC. It was a big deal. He was very good at it. It went for many seasons. And he has a reality television star's ability to operate without shame, to not be here to make friends, but also to be entertaining. And I think that's something that is really important in the media's understanding of Trump, is that there's a way in which Trump as an entertainer and Trump as a driver, and I run a news site, Trump is a driver of traffic, of clicks. He has been good for business. It allows us in a way to sort of laugh at him, and it allows us to get used to what we're seeing as a kind of television show, but it isn't. It is not political entertainment. It is actual politics, and he could win.
Linda Sarsour and Ezra Klein, thank you both tonight. That is all in for this evening. The Rachel Maddow Show